Hey guys, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to move on to part 2 of the reset cycle. So we have focused on the clear before now, and now we are moving towards the commit stage. So commit is all about setting goals and intentions. It's about understanding how we're going to move towards those goals, whatever it is that we decide. And then it's setting some affirmations just to generate some self-belief and to generate some confidence in the goals that we're actually setting for ourselves. So just as we discussed with the clear section, this is something you just want to be doing once a month. If you want to make it a bit more regular, then of course you can, but my recommendation would be to, at the start of the month, once you have reviewed the month before with your clear section, you can start to look towards the month ahead. And the beauty of this is it just gives us a bit of a routine check-in to understand what our goals are and what is it that we're currently working on. Rather than having these huge goals, it actually enables us to create actionable steps. We can start to look back at the month before and look at the goals that we achieved or which ones we didn't, and then we can review as to why didn't we achieve them? Were we responsible for that? Did life get in the way? And we can start to change the how if it didn't work before. One of the biggest problems when it comes to achieving our goals is a lot of people can tell me what it is they want or what it is they're working towards, but then they are stuck with, but I don't know how to get there, or I'm not sure what my first step is. And that is exactly why this part of the reset cycle works. Because whilst we have this goal in play, we are more focused on identifying what those actionable steps are. And it's not necessarily a case of having a plan from A to Z. It's not a case of writing a full business plan about how you're going to achieve your goals and looking about what might come up or what problems, because that's going to create more anxiety. This is essentially just a case of identifying ways how we are going to commit to this goal. So over the course of the next month, I am going to do this. Over the course of the next month, I'm going to try this. And then towards the end of the month, we can review, start to make changes which are going to help us to move towards our long-term goals one step at a time. So what does commit actually mean? Well, it's making a decision based on something that we are going to work towards. It's acting even though there's doubt. It's acting even when things go wrong because we have decided that this is what we're going to work towards. And that just helps you to have a bit of a clearer view towards your goal. So we'll get started with the commit section. As we've done previously, grab a bit of paper, grab your journal, whatever it is that you've been using throughout this course. Again, if you want to make this visual and colorful, then you can. Or if you just want to have it on a sheet of paper or in written form, you can write as little or as much as you need for this to be clear and for it to make sense for you. So we start with our goals and intentions, and this is where it becomes very personal to you. If you are someone that has really specific goals, something that you know that you want to work towards, or an outcome that you know you want, then you can start to write those goals down. But equally, if you don't have any goals right now, nothing that is sort of jumping out of you as an actionable goal that you can work towards, then you can also set intentions. So that could just be something as simple as being kinder to myself this month, giving myself the opportunity to rest. So that's not necessarily a goal like growing my Instagram or setting a fitness goal. Again, if you wanted to make it fitness related, your intention could be, I want to be more active. So that's where this becomes really individual to wherever you're at right now. And you can also have a mixture of the two. So I would say set 3 to 5. If you have more, then you can, but it's good to keep it quite concise. So it's good to have some smaller goals that you can work on. So social media is the perfect example for this one. Your goal may be to have 100,000 followers, for example. But if you're at 500 right now, then what your goal should be is to have 1,000 followers. Or the goal can simply be to grow my social media account. You know that your long-term goal is to hit 100,000 followers. But by setting the smaller goals that is more actionable, it gives us a bit more clarity as to how we're going to do it, but it also gives us a bit more belief as we start working towards it. And it's the same with intentions. Your intention might be to start posting on social media. Your intention might be to post 3 times a week. And then that's where it comes down to the how and the affirmation stage. So pause here, take a moment, and just think about what your goals are. It could be fitness related, it could be financial related, it could just be your own personal experience. It could be how you want to show up every day for yourself, for people in your life, or maybe there is something that you are working towards, whether that's a trip away or starting a business. Just take a moment, pause, and really think about what it is you want to work towards. And once you understand that big goal, that thing that you can sit here and say, that is where I want to be in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, a year's time, then start to work backwards and bring that goal into something which can be achieved within the next month. And obviously you don't know what's going to happen, but ultimately, in order to achieve a goal, you need to be taking steps towards it. So now you should have a number of goals or intentions which are very personal to you. And from here, the next stage is looking at the how. So again, this is very personal to you and it depends on your own circumstances. It depends on how much time and energy you have to put into achieving these goals. And that's when you start looking at how am I going to get closer to that goal? It's not necessarily a case of how am I going to achieve it, but how can I take steps to get closer? So if it's a fitness related goal, then perhaps the how is you actually need to be more active, or you need to be more strict, you need to get more sleep. If it is a social media goal, I keep coming back to this example, but it's just one that I have consistently been using over the last 6 months or so. So if the goal is to grow your social media, the how is I need to be posting on social media. I need to be refining my edits. I need to come up with content ideas. So again, it's not a case of creating the full plan of how we do it. And once this happens, this will then happen, because that's when we get lost. And also we can spend so much time in the planning stage that we then never start, because the planning is exciting, the planning is fun, and ultimately the planning is safe. Because when you're planning something, there's actually no exposure. No one is going to force you to do anything. No one is going to see you doing anything, because everything is just a plan. It's an idea, it's a concept. The hard bit is where we actually start taking steps towards our goals and you start getting feedback, things start going wrong, or something comes up that you maybe hadn't have seen. So that's where, if we have these very small, easy hows, it becomes easier for us to actually start moving forwards. And with each step, of course, there's going to be insecurities and difficulties that come up, but we will speak about that in later modules. But the actual momentum that you will start to gain from taking that step is what we want. And that's how we start to actually get closer towards achieving whatever goal it is that you have in mind. So take a moment and pause here. Just start to think about how is it that you're actually going to move closer to that goal. Not how you're going to do it, because that is something much larger. But what is it that you can do over the course of the next 4 weeks, the next few days even, that is going to show you that you are taking steps towards that goal. So you now should have your goals and intentions, and you should even have some of your hows, how you're going to actually start working towards your goals. I will just say, if you made more intentions than you did goals, then this is something which may look slightly different when you actually look at your how. So for example, if your intention was, I'm going to be kinder to myself this month, your how could be, I'm going to go for 1 coffee date a week. I'm going to take some time each week, which is just a period of time for me. Or it could be, first thing in the morning when I wake up, I'm going to write 5 things I like about myself. I'm going to write 1 thing I like about myself. So there are different ways of doing this. If it's not necessarily a specific goal and you set more intentions, then just start to think about how you might be kinder to yourself if that was your intention. Okay, so we'll move on to the affirmations angle. So this is the final part, and this is more of a case of just starting to make ourselves believe that we are the type of person that is working towards our goals. So the affirmations can be really specific to the goals and intentions. If your intention was to be nicer to yourself, your affirmation is, I am grateful for myself. I am nice to myself. I celebrate myself, things like that. If your goal was to grow your social media, your affirmation could be, I am a content creator. I am creative. I am someone that is consistent. So just again, take a moment to think about whatever it is that you've written down in your goals and intentions. Have a look at those methods and those steps that you've created in the how, and then just start to come up with a list of affirmations which match those. And that's when you'll start to look at your bit of paper and you'll be able to see that over the course of the next month, these are the steps that I'm going to take. And you can start creating that self-belief by looking at the affirmations that you've created. And in the how, there should be some actionable steps that you can start taking throughout the next month. And then what happens is, as a month passes, we can look back on January or February's commit and we can say, okay, well, at the start of the month, I committed to being more active. I committed to posting on social media and I committed to being nicer to myself. You look at the end of the month and you look at the hows and you think, okay, well, I did really well there and I actually was consistent and I actually did those things, but I didn't actually do that one and I still think I can work on that. And some of these goals will be consistent. You will find that month by month you share the same goals, you share the same intentions, and that is ultimately part of this whole program, is that this is an ongoing process. It's not something that you do once and then all of a sudden you have achieved your goals and you feel better, you feel happier, so let's move on and never think about it again. This is something that is just an ongoing process, so you can start to track what it is that you are interested in, what it is that you're working towards, and how you want to show up for yourself. This is something that, again, can take 5 or 10 minutes. It can be a longer process. It's something you can do by yourself or you can do with friends, even family, and just make it a bit more of an interactive process. And again, over time, you will just find that you just have a bit more clarity about what step comes up. And if you do feel stuck, you might be a year down the line and you may have achieved all of these things, but you just feel a little bit stuck again. You can sit down and you can go through this process and think, right, what is it that I actually want? What is it that I'm actually working towards? And how am I going to get there? And then you should find that you will just find it a lot easier to take actionable steps to get yourself unstuck. So that's the second part of the reset cycle. So you should now have the clear section and you should have the commit section. Perhaps there's a story there, perhaps they look completely different, but it can be good to just look at what is in your clear section and what is in your commit section. And then what you can do is, over time, you can start looking back at how things are changing from month to month, depending on how often you do the reset cycle. I hope that's been helpful, guys, and I will see you on the next lesson.